Hi guys, this is George and Jake at EDC Leather. Today we're going to be creating a stitch line for the STI Staccato. Tools that we're going to use today are going to be my close-up glasses, pencil sharpener, eraser, ruler, keep spare pencils, a set of calipers, and we're going to use a blue gun, or you can use a live gun as well as some cardstock. Alright, what we're going to be doing here, first of all, we have to get a good solid tracing of the firearm. You see that I have them. We have stitch traces, one of the products that we have on the website. But we're going to talk about the challenges of actually tracing a live firearm. So I'm going to place this over this actual tracing that I've got done. So, if I take my pencil and I go straight up and down, and I'm making a tracing of the gun, looky there. See where I'm off? I don't know if that's visible. Okay. So then I sit there and I say, well, I'm going to make some little adjustments, and I'm going to bend my pencil in just a little bit. Now look at my line. We've not helped ourselves there at all. So this is on you guys. You need to be really accurate. And just a matter of practice is all it's going to be. So we're going to set our firearm down. I'm going to stand up. It's easier for me to work that way when I'm doing this. And I'm going to have a slight inboard cant on my pencil. And you see, I can get a good solid tracing. Your tracing is going to be really important to this, guys. So pay attention to it. Practice it. Make yourself some additional marks. Look at this extended safety. So I marked that out. Here, if you can see, the mag release is on the opposite side of the firearm. I always draw the same way. Muzzle down, 270 degrees, okay, which puts a mag release, if it's not ambi, down there. But I can see where it is here. So when I'm done with my tracing, I get up over top of it. I put my pencil there. I look at its location on the trigger. I kick the firearm out of the way, drop my pencil, and now I have a mark for mag release. Here, the front of the trigger we mark out, and the back of the trigger we mark out. All right, because we're going to need that information, and the ejection port. We need that information. All right, so there is a tracing of the firearm. All right, we're going to need 4 different measurements. And Jake's going to put them up on the screen. The slide, right here. The dust cover. This is the dust cover. You'll find this on 1911s and like firearms. A lot of your striker firearms will not have this. The frame. The frame consists of, holds the trigger guard, goes up underneath the slide. All this is the frame. I want a measurement of the width of the frame right here. And the trigger guard itself. How wide is that thing? We need those 4 measurements. The next thing that I need to know is leather weight. In this case, 8 ounce. Okay. The cant of my final pattern. This fella here needs 8 degrees. And the mode of carry. This is going to be 3 o'clock. Okay, so when I have this information down, not only is this going to help me in creating the stitch line, but it's going to help me in keeping my head in the game on the pattern as well. So let's get some measurements. We're going to take our calipers. I use decimals of inches. You can use centimeters, you can use fractions, you can use whatever you're comfortable with. It happens to be what I do. I believe that these here are available at Harbor Freight for like $12 or $15. So I'm going to pull a measurement on my slide. I'm assuming that you can see here the top of the slide has an angle. I'm not going to pay attention to that at this point. I'm going to pull the actual frame. Okay? And on that there, we're pulling a 0.918, 9.2. We're going to call it 0.92. Okay? the dust cover. I want to know what that puppy is. 0.625. The frame. These rails are going to be standard. You'll get used to that pretty soon. .82. The trigger guard, I want you to come across at an angle, especially on molds. They could have got a little thin here, a little thicker here. So what we're going to do is get a big broad chunk of it. .385. So now I have my basic dimensions down here. So now we're going to do a formula. Jacob's going to put it up on the screen. Okay? That formula is going to be this measurement right here, 2, plus the thickness of the leather, which in 8 ounces is actually 0.125 inches. We're going to put a link in the underneath the video with a breakdown of ounces to measurements. So when I take that right there, I'm going to do this in long form. So 0.92 divided by 2 equals 0.46. Okay? 0.46 plus 0.125, 0.585. On this side of my deal, I'm going to write this down now, 0.585. That's the dimension I'm going to use. Dust cover, 0.625 divided by 2 equals 0.3125. Okay? 3125. Okay. 0.3125 plus 0.125 0.4375. Okay, the frame is 0.82 divided by 2, 0.41. 0.41 plus the thickness of our leather, 0.125 equals 0.535 inches. The trigger guard is 0.385. And heck, I'm going to have to actually use my little calculator. And that's 0.1925. Okay, plus the thickness of the leather. .3175. All right, with these dimensions, guys, we can now make a stitch line. On a retention style holster, a modern retention holster, your retention is derived through molding. We can catch retention here and here, okay? And we get some friction off of here as well, but it all comes from an accurate stitch line. So when you see guys telling you, oh, just move it a ½ inch or do this or do that, that's really bad information, and it's going to mess you up. When you first make that holster, you're like, wow, this is awesome, but a year from now, it's going to start relaxing. So if you have a proper stitch line, it's all going to work for you. All right, guys, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take these dimensions that we have written down, that we've determined using our math, okay? I'm going to dial them into my little calipers, 0.585. I'm going to set this puppy down on my tracing. I'm going to make a tick mark at the top. I'm going to make a tick mark at the bottom. I'm going to grab my happy ruler. I'm going to connect those. Real simple. That's my first stitch line. I want to come down 1/8 of an inch below the muzzle because I want to cover the crown of the muzzle, thereby protecting it from impact and affecting future accuracy. So I'm just coming down here. I'm making, once again, 2 tick marks. That's going to be the bottom of my leather. All right, let's go to our next dimension. The dust cover is 0.4375. I'm going to dial it into my little calipers here. Come on, little calipers, work for me. We're going to be happy at 0.438. Maybe. I'm going to make 2 tick marks again. I'm going to connect them with my ruler. I'm not worrying about this line up here. I just want to get it straight and true here. Now I'm going to go to my frame. Right here. We see the dimension is 0.535. Once you've made this stitch line, I want you to photocopy it and save that puppy. Don't go through this pain more than once. .535. I'm going to take my ruler. I'm going to connect those again. The next dimension I'm going to pick up is going to be my trigger guard at 0.3175. Alright, so now what I'm doing is I'm looking here at the overall trigger and I see how it comes down. Well, I can't have my stitch line too tight here to where that drags. So I'm going to come out here to where the trigger guard is at its furthest point out. I'm going to make a line there. Okay, and once again I'm looking to see where this is. I'll make a line there. If I can get my fingers to work, fellas. All right. We now have the basis to work from. But what we're going to do now is we're going to get a couple more tick marks. I'm going to look at that. Now we're going to do a little freehand work. Okay. Now I need to connect this stitch line with this, and a lot of guys you'll see will go real sharp or do a square. Don't do that, fellas. So you're going to be stitching this at 6 stitches per inch. Okay? So let's remember what happens if we get our stitches too tight, they get choppy. So just get yourself a nice arc coming in there. Actually, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a Parker tool. One of the admins on holsters for handguns is J.R. Parker. Fell out of Wisconsin. He developed a set of tools that are just awesome. And in the next video, we'll be using these heavily. So there we go. We had a nice arc. Now, here's the next problem you're going to run into on any weapon with a dust cover. It's everybody's habit to make a transition right here where this transition is. But the leather doesn't only move in, the leather moves up as well. So I want you to look at coming down about 1/8 of an inch before you make that transition. Okay? We're going to use the Parker tool again. What I'm doing is give myself just a couple. There's what we need. So now we're just doing a little freehand drawing. And I've connected these. The reality is, guys, you don't have to bring the stitch line in. You can come straight down. You can mold it. It'll work just fine. But we're going to do a transition here. I think it looks a little better. It's not going to affect your overall firearm. Okay. So we have the basis of the stitch lines down now, but we're not quite ready to go yet, because we're going to go ahead and add in a grip clearance, okay? Grip clearances are 1 inch. We're going to come off of our grip at about the same angle as the grip is. We'll tick mark at 1 inch. And 1 inch. Now, 1 inch is a real good rule of thumb. But depending on, look at the size of these meat hooks. But if you have somebody that has real small fingers, or you've got to push the gun down a little bit, you can go to 3/4 of an inch, a little bit less room, and do that. So I don't want leather to impinge into this area, allowing the user to get a full combat grip. And fellas, that is a stitch line. It took a little bit of work. I don't have them all. Now we have at EDC, this is something that we make. We make stitch traces. But I don't make stitch traces for every gun out there, so you want it. This reminds me right here. Look at this co-witness sight. Okay? This is a challenge of this gun. You can purchase this with regular sights or co-witnesses. Now the regular sights on this gun are 0.17 inches. But the co-witness sights are 0.37 inches. So what do? I've got to get some sight channel on this firearm. Now, you don't have to build that much room all the way up the pattern. I needed to start right about here. When the muzzle gets to this area right here, you're starting to rotate the firearm. Okay, and I no longer need that stitch clearance. So what I'm going to do is, I know on this here that I need about 0.18 inches of additional room right on that sight. I'm going to make a tick mark. I'm going to say that I need that to start at the ejection port. For a co-witness sight, I'm now going to alter my stitch line right there. So the stitch line comes down to here. Because of that large sight, comes out to here. This gives you room for a sight channel to where when the firearm is drawn from the holster, this sharp edge does not drag leather shavings and therefore occlude the front sight. That would be bad. All right, guys. This stitch line is now complete. If you like this content and you like what we're doing, you want to see more of it, please hit the like and subscribe button. Jake tells me that I have to remember to do that every single time. This map that we also put into the video, Jake's going to put it into a PDF file. Put a link in the description down below. You can click it and you can get that. In fact, what we'll do is we will include, as a freebie for all you guys out there doing it, I will give you for free the staccato stitch trace. So you'll have it. So in the next video, you can follow along with what we're doing. So you're going to get a free gift of a stitch trace. We're going to go over the math. And like and subscribe. And what's that other thing called? What's the little bell called, Jacob? Huh? Notifications. We got your notifications. We're getting close to 1,000 subscribers. And when we hit 1,000, George gets his own unicorn. And I'm barbecuing that son of a gun. Tito Pena said he's going to come up and do some Texas barbecue. So, and you're all invited. So let's do that thing. Bye.